Alright, so I got the request to do top 5 best compact smartphones. A lot of people aren't really into big phones, so let's go ahead and get started with the iPhone 7. One of my favorite phones still. It's an older flagship. You can actually pick this up for around 200 bucks, and this is still an awesome device. So it has a very premium design. It's an aluminum back, basically an aluminum phone. Just feels really good. It's IP67 dust and water resistant, so you can get this phone wet. So you have a 4.7-inch Retina display on the iPhone 7, and it is a very good display on this phone. And again, this is a phone that you can definitely use with one hand if you have smaller hands. So I just really love that about this phone. And it's a HD plus display, 326 for the PPI, still pretty bright as well. I just really love this phone. So you do have the latest version of iOS 13.6.1, and this will actually get iOS 14. In my opinion, it should get iOS 15, if not 16. The chip in here is still really good with the Apple A10 chip, so it is very good for gaming as well. So if you want to game on this phone, you can still do that. I have a gaming test if you guys want to check that out. Play Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG, whatever. You also have no expandable storage, 32 gigs of internal storage, and 2 gigs of RAM. This phone is still very fast. I had no speed issues with this phone, no hiccup issues. It's a very fast phone. So you also have pretty decently loud stereo speakers on here, which is always nice. You have NFC for your Apple Pay. The fingerprint scanner on the front is very fast. The Touch ID works flawlessly on here still. You also have just a single camera. It's a 12 megapixel camera, 4K video. You also have a 7 megapixel camera up front that shoots in 1080p. You can still get some very solid shots on here. This is still a really good camera phone compared to a lot of $200 phones that are even came out this year or last year, especially the front facing camera. So this is still a super solid phone. I think the only kind of downside on this phone would be battery life. You have a 1060 milliamp battery. Now if you watch my drain test, I got around 4 hours of screen on time, so that was with heavy use. If you're not using it so heavy, you can probably squeeze 5 hours of screen on time. So this is a phone that you're going to be charging at the end of the day. Next is the Unihertz Atom. This is a very tiny phone. If you just want something that's really small, then this has a 2.45-inch display, so super small. Runs Android 9, and I really like the design on here. It's very, and it has a kind of a rugged design as well, which is pretty nice. Now you have 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage. You also have a 2000 milliamp battery, which again, you're not going to be doing a whole bunch on this phone because of the display. It's really going to be just a lot of basic stuff. But I know there's a market for people like that, just want a smartphone, but they just want to do a little basic. They're not trying to do hardcore gaming and Instagram and all that stuff on here. Now you can do that on here, but again, it's not going to be the best experience. So do know what you're getting yourself into here. Now it is IP68 dust and water resistant, which is something that is awesome. So you can get this phone wet. You have expandable storage as well, which is really awesome. NFC for mobile payments. This does have USB Type-C on it. A fingerprint scanner up front, which is really nice. And you also have a programmable key on the right hand side of this phone, so you can program any application to this guy. So this is one of the phones where if you just want to travel really light, or you're going outdoors or whatever, you just want to travel light, then this is a really good option as well. Alright, so next is the Galaxy S10e, a beast of a phone. You can find this for around 350 to 400 bucks, and it is just really awesome. Now this is probably, I guess, one of the bigger phones, but not really compared to today's standards. So you have a premium design on here, glass back, aluminum frame, just really nice. It's IP68 dust and water resistant as well, so you can get this phone wet. You also have the dynamic AMOLED display with the punch hole. Beautiful display. It's a 5.8-inch display, 1080p 438 for the PPI. And when I say it's a beautiful display, it's really nice, very vibrant, very color accurate, and I love the punch hole. It just gives it a really immersive experience. So I just really love the design on this phone, and I've got a ton of videos on here, so it just feels really good in the hand. A very good phone that you can hold in one hand, no problem. So this does have Android 10 with One UI 2.0. You also have the Snapdragon 855 and the Adreno 640. So basically still a flagship chipset. You can play games on high, Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG. If you want to see that gaming test, please check that out. I have it on the channel. You also have 128 gigs of storage and 6 gigs of RAM, along with micro SD support as well. Now you also have some very loud stereo speakers on here, which is really awesome. It's tuned by AKG, so they just sound really awesome. This phone does have NFC as well, which is really cool. So you have that mobile payments on here, and I love that they put the fingerprint scanner on the side where the power button is. It's just really awesome, very convenient to get to, just really comfortable. One thing that I've always appreciated about this phone. And you also have excellent cameras on here. You have a dual camera setup. It's a 12 megapixel wide and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. You have 4K video. You have a 10 megapixel selfie camera that also shoots in 4K, and it is just really good quality. Detail is there in photos. Dynamic range is pretty good, and you have Samsung's really punchy color science on here that just makes the pictures pop, and it is just a really awesome experience. So you also have okay battery life, not bad. You have a 3100 milliamp battery, 15 watt fast charging, wireless charging as well, with reverse wireless charging. So if you want to charge like anything that's basically compatible wireless charging, headphones, another phone, whatever, you can do that. And battery life, I did a drain test on here as well, and you get around 6 to 7 hours of battery life depending on how you use it, which is actually pretty good. So next is another really tiny phone. It is the Palm phone. So this comes in at around $250 on Amazon. The prices do kind of bounce up and down, but this is a very interesting phone. So it has a pretty good design. It's an aluminum frame on here, glass back as well. So that is pretty nice for this price point. You have IP68 dust and water resistant, so you can get this phone wet no problem. Now you have a 3.3 inch IPS LCD, a 720p 445 for the PPI, so a pretty good display and good resolution and PPI for this size, so a really nice crisp display. Now you have Android 9 on here with the Snapdragon 435 and Adreno 505. Basically, this is not going to be like a little mini gaming phone. It's really going to be your basic applications, Chrome, Gmail, just doing basic stuff like that. It's not going to be like a little mini gaming phone, but I understand that a lot of people expect that with these types of, tiny phones. So you do have micro SD support and 32 gigs of storage, along with 3 gigs of RAM. So from what I've seen, it is relatively smooth, so performance is pretty decent on here. You actually have dual speakers, which is pretty nice on such a tiny device. And you also have a 12 megapixel single camera, shoots in 720, and 8 megapixel selfie. The cameras aren't really impressive on here. From what I've seen, you get some pretty decent shots if you're in good lighting, but you're definitely not buying this for the camera. This phone does lag NFC, which is kind of sucks, but you do have face recognition on here, a 800 milliamp battery with fast charging, which is pretty nice. So this is overall a decent phone, especially if you just want a phone with a slightly bigger display than the Untitled Atom. Last is going to be the Sony Xperia XZ1. So this is a pretty interesting phone because it's an older phone, but it's held up, so it's around $300 on Amazon, because I think there's just a market for these smaller phones here. So you have a still, I think, really nice design. I think it still looks good in 2020. It's aluminum back, aluminum frame. It's just really nice looking still. You have IP68 dust and water resistant. You have a 5.2 inch IPS 1080p display, 424 for the PPI. So think of it as being a little bit bigger than the iPhone 7. So if you're interested in that display size, that's really nice. It has Android 9 with the Snapdragon 835 and the Adreno 540. Basically, this is still kind of a capable phone. You can think of it as being on like a mid-ranger level, like a new mid-range phone that will come out today. You can think of that spec wise. You can still kind of game on here, and from what I'm seeing, it's still a relatively smooth phone. You also have have micro SD support, 64 gigs of internal storage with 4 gigs of RAM. You also have stereo speakers, which is nice, so you get some loud audio. This phone does have NFC for mobile payments. The fingerprint scanner is side mounted, which again is something that I really love. You also have a pretty decent camera. It's a 19 megapixel wide. It actually shoots in 4K. You have a 13 megapixel front that shoots in 1080p, which is really nice. So you have a decent camera on here. So if you want to take some pictures, you can definitely get a pretty good shot out of this camera. You also have a 2700 milliamp battery with 18-watt fast charging, which can definitely get you through the day. So this is a very solid phone. Again, one of the better looking phones on the list. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.